Okay, I believe that may have worked. This is my first time or second attempt at going live here. I intend for this to be a Q&A. If we're live, I need to check because last week I went live in the wrong group or in the wrong Elegant Edits account. I had an older account uh, for when I first started on YouTube, and then I also had a branded account that I needed for monetization. So I hope we're in the right uh, account here. Just bear with me. I'm trying to make it to where I can actually see the chat, but I've never done this before. So just bear with me for a second here. Okay, it shows I'm live here. Okay, can someone type something in the chat if you can see here? Hey, how's it going, big boy? Hopefully we get some people in here. I'm gonna try to share this for a second, or in a second rather. Appreciate the likes and the love. This is just gonna be impromptu. Well, I planned it a little bit, but I don't know what we're going to talk about. So it's up to you guys to let me know what your questions are with regard to DTF, and as I see them pop up, I'll take care of them. Mind you, I don't have any moderators or anything like that. Yeah, Big Boy says, chilling what we talking about. Already shared. Thanks, bro. You know, I'm terrible at social media, man. So let me. Uh, but I've been talking about doing this for a while, so it's time that I just start. You just have to start somewhere, and so this is the same information that I give people, uh, especially young people that are they have that entrepreneurial spirit, that heart, that fight. Uh, I preach to them, and I tell them, hey, don't be nervous or anything. Just go out there and do it, and at least you can say you tried. So I need to apply that to my own life. So we're just going live here now, and I hope we get some people in here. Who knows? I hope I'm streaming in the correct group or in the correct YouTube channel. It appears as though I am. So I hope everything is right here. Because last week I went live in the old Elegant Edits group. I have two Elegant Edits, YouTube pages. So uh, because of that, need to get some water here. Because I feel like I'm gonna be talking a lot here in a second. Excuse me. Product placement. I hope we get into some DTF stuff. Can we talk about avoiding moisture and prints? Oh my goodness. So, okay, yeah. So I guess we'll get a couple of people in here. Let me try to share it in my group. I hadn't even shared it anywhere. So I assume that I can just take this link and paste it. I feel like a dinosaur. I feel like somebody's grandpa, man, with the social media. Okay, just give me a second here. Okay, I'm gonna actually post this on my personal page as well. I have some of you guys that have found me on my personal page, so some of you guys are very resourceful. So let me see here. Okay. DTF print talk. Okay, those are the only outlets that I can post to now. I guess I can do it in a community post as well within YouTube. And then we'll be ready to kick this thing off. I appreciate your time and I want to respect your time too. And I also have some work to do today. So I just want to make sure we're kind of at least on topic somewhat. So I want to start with what Big Boy asked and then I'll check the comments in a second. And all of these things are just going to be my opinions. This is just what I've experienced here with printing with DTF for a year now. And my word isn't law, but I have a fairly good idea of what I'm doing at this point. And whatever I don't know, I ask. I find mentors, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Finding mentors. So, community post. We're live. Okay. And that's for the people that haven't subscribed. Maybe that'll help. Okay, and so back to this. Okay, so let's see here. I have an interest on the place for 5 minutes. That way it gives time for people to come in and share out the live. Thank you, sir. See, Big Boy's going to be one of my mentors when it comes to YouTube lives because I haven't done it before and he's done it a lot. So finding mentors, it gives people time to come in and share the live. I need to come see you this week. Yeah, so we can talk about that here in a little bit because I was going to call you because we'll touch base because I want to help you with something and I know you can help me with something. Going live is gonna be one of the things you can help me with. Hey, Customs Journey. I appreciate you tuning in. I know you could be anywhere else in the world right now, but you chose to watch me. So I appreciate that. If you have any questions or if you have any tips, if you've seen anything in my videos that you think I can work on or improve, please let me know. None of us are without scrutiny. So if you guys can help me in any way, just let me know and we can make this thing better. So when we talk about, we have 5 people, thank you. So that's 5 people that chose to watch. So when we talk about moisture and prints, it is a mixed bag because we have a lot of, how would I answer that? So we have a lot of mixed information in the DTF groups. Not saying that it's all terrible, bad, or good. What I'm saying is that there's so much mixed information and people getting different results. And it's going to be a talk more so about your environment. So this right here, this is called a digital hygrometer. And I don't want to seem too technical. I'm still learning it. So this is actually, it can be linked to an app on your phone. The only company that I know that sells this kind that actually has an app on your phone that I know of would be DTG Pro. I don't have any links in the description or anything. This is just relevant to what we're talking about. And so the ideal temperature for DTF is going to be 75 degrees in the room. So we're a little low, but who cares, right? And this is in my hand. So the humidity isn't 50s, 58 in here. This is the humidity, if you can see that, okay. Once I place this down, you'll see this drop probably to 35, 36, because here in Texas, our humidity is a little bit low, at least in Dallas. So if you're closer to Houston, it's probably way up there. And I know Veronica Hernandez. She's out in Florida. It's going to be the Iron Designs. Can't remember the acronym to her channel, but it's if you just YouTube Iron Designs, you'll find her. But I know in Florida, the air's pretty high, 50-60%, I want to say, humidity. So when you talk about moisture and prints, it's going to be more so a talk of your environment. So what we like to do, or what I like to do, I can't speak for anyone else, is, yeah, so it's 36 right now. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see that. So our humidity is 36%. So if I, or when, rather, when I start to print for the day today, I know that since my humidity isn't around 40, it's close, but DTF, some would say arguably between 40 and 45% humidity. And with that, the other reason why you'll need a digital hygrometer would be because you can't really go based on what you see on the Weather Channel. I've seen in some of the groups where people say, "Hey, this is my humidity," when that weather station may be in Killeen, Texas. Who knows? Their station may be in Killeen, and the humidity may be even lower than it is here. So that's you need to know the humidity in your shop. That's why it's here. Realistically, you want this hygrometer to be as close to where the print head is as possible, because that it may fluctuate by 1 or 2 percent for your humidity. But if you just want the accurate reading, you could do that. But this printer setup doesn't allow for me to do that. So with that said, talking about moisture and prints, what happens is when you're printing with DTF, the inks come out wet, so that the TPU, or the powder, the adhesive powder, can actually bind with the molecules in the ink, or whatever you want to put it. So once the ink is laid down onto the film, what's happening is some people powder a little bit too soon if the humidity's a little high. I'm guilty of it. Some of my prints come out oily, but that's why I don't really print transfers for people, because there's too many factors that go into somebody complaining about any little thing that goes wrong. And I start with integrity, and I start with the credibility of my business. So it's almost like I don't even really want to go down that route because of these factors. So if the humidity is a little bit higher, like if your humidity is 50, 60 in some places, I think someone was like in Alaska, there's like 60 something humidity, and it was so weird because I think they were powdering too soon and the humidity was super high, and they actually got bubbles in their prints when they were curing. And so, I mean, that's something to consider if you're going to buy a DTF printer. So with that said, high humidity, you want to wait a little while to print. I wish I could show you this. I mean, I could run a print, but whatever. So, and hi, Joanne Stein, I believe. Stein. Sorry if I mispronounce any of your names here. I'll read your comment in just a second, but I've been kind of, some of these are multifaceted answers to these questions. So if your humidity is pretty high, you want to wait a little while. You can wait if your humidity is super high. What you're looking for is for the back of the print, the whites over base. You want that to have like a dull appearance. Don't worry, it's not dry. It takes these prints 24 to 48 hours before they're unusable or unpowderable. So you want to make sure it has a dull finish because those inks are still moist. So when the inks are still moist and you go, it's like you're flash curing that heat, some of that moisture gets locked in. From what I've experienced, some of that moisture gets locked in, and as you leave those transfers there, you'll start to see some discharge. So if you see any sort of oily discharge, on each sheet, if you stack them, you could simply just give it one press. So press the transfer to the sheet as you normally would, and then from there, you will want to wipe the surface. So before you do your second press, you'll want to get a washcloth or something, and you usually can just wipe that oil off. If you don't wipe that oil off before the second press, you may see little contact marks, I guess you would call it, like bubbles, or the print would be, it would have like a stain, I guess, on it. So that's one way to combat that. If you're going to store your prints, because I know someone may ask me that, if you're running prints and you want to store them, I would say to get a large Ziploc bag, and then you'll want to put these little silica packs. I may have to go get some, but basically the little silica bead packs, they come in your shoes. They when they ship things for long uh, durations of time, they want to keep the moisture out of the product. So you can find those probably on Amazon, the little silica packs, and you just want to put 1 or 2 packs in that in that Ziploc bag, and you can store them indefinitely because it'll absorb any of that moisture there. So if your humidity is really low, like let's say my humidity was around 30, it'd be like it'd be a pretty sad day, because that means that if your humidity is low, the print's not going to be as wet when it exits the printer. So I might want to powder that a little bit faster, right? Because it has more of a tendency to dry, and you won't get a good, I don't know how you say it, like a bond, like with the polymers or whatever, because the white inks has latex. The white DTF inks contain latex, so you don't want that to dry out, because that's where you get your stretch from. That's where your stretch comes from. A little bit comes from your ink, but also your powder. You may have poor quality powder or poor quality inks, and that may affect the moisture in your print. So don't listen to some random guy on YouTube. Just take all the information that you get and do your testing. So the answer to your question, big boy, in 10 minutes, the answer to your question is going to be doing your testing to find out what's good for you, what's best for you, and to see if it's conducive to your work environment based on your humidity. But you won't know your humidity unless you have a digital hygrometer. And so that's what I would say. So let's move on here. Joanne says, do you use silicone application pad to avoid impression marks from the heat press on sportswear? So how does that affect your pressing time? Okay, so I don't use a silicone sheet. I used to, but it adds to your overhead. So I was ordering these silicone. Um, no, it was parchment paper. So I wouldn't use silicone. Now you could use just a standard. You know, if you've ever done vinyl, I know you have this Teflon sheet. You can get these on Amazon, and I'm sure you can get them from any of your suppliers. I'm sure they carry them, but you just want to use a Teflon sheet because it's reusable. You won't get any sort of uh, residual ink or oils or anything like that on the sheet. So, I mean, that one sheet could last you 4,000 presses. So we just put out an order that I ended up having to overnight. Well, no, we couldn't overnight it. It was going to be $2,100. But basically, we had 1 or 2 days to do them, and then we had to ship them to California. So that was 275 shirts, and we pressed them all with this one sheet with no errors, and it didn't affect. To answer your second question, it didn't affect our pressing times or anything. And if you're curious about what I use my press, you know, the temperatures that we use our press at, that's going to be 285 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 seconds for the dwell time. And then on the second press, we do usually about, what would that be? About, I guess, 7 seconds, about 7 or 8 seconds on that. So thank you, Customs Journey, uh, for your comment here. I'm just making sure I haven't left anyone out. Again, I'm still surprised there's 7 people watching me. You know, I didn't really put this out there. If you're here and you don't know who Big Boy Prince is, go and check his channel out. He has a wealth of knowledge in terms of testing, and he's also a supplier. So he has DTF products that are quality, uh, the whitest of the white, as he would say. And I've tested it. Matter of fact, you can't see it, but I have his inks up there. I was running them through the 7890 when I was running that one. So, anything else that you guys would want to know? I'll try to answer as best as possible. What is your curing time and temp with the curing oven? So that's a two-parter. So firstly, I would say I don't have a curing oven. Not saying I don't. That's good if you, especially if, now if you're printing from your home, you need something like that. And I've seen where people, and then I'll answer your question as best as I can. But no, I'll give you the answer first. So what we cure at is 270 degrees, 260 degrees. That's it's a little high, but it's because my heat isn't concentrated. So in an oven that may vary, but for me, I just cure with my heat press. And I can't really show you right now, but I have a large format heat press. So it's a clamshell, uh, 31 by 39-inch heat press, and I have it hovering just above the lower platen with about a little over a quarter-inch gap. And I just slide as they come off, powder them, slide them underneath there, but 270 degrees. Oh no, yeah, I want to say 270. I could cut it on just to make sure, because that seems a little high. Let me just check. I'm gonna cut it on and see what it's at. Give me a second. So that's going to be 170 degrees Celsius. It wasn't so, and that's Celsius. And I say Celsius because it's an overseas press, and so I can't convert it to Fahrenheit. So I have to pull up the chart. And I guess I can do this work for you. That way you don't have to do it. So we'll say 27, or no, I said 170. 170 C2F. That would be 338 degrees Fahrenheit. And I do that because you want an orange peel like texture. If the back of your, if it still feels like sand, but it's still stuck to, if it has a sandy texture or gritty texture, I guess that's a better word. Uh, Once you cure, you aren't curing for long enough, or it's not hot enough. You want a smooth, rubber like orange peel texture to it, and that will be the proper cure. Because you want that adhesive to melt into the fibers of the shirt when you go to press. And so we do that 170 Celsius at about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. So we also want a short curing time too, because I'm not really in a fast production environment. So that's also why I don't even have a curing oven. I just feel like I don't need one. We're in a shop. It's ventilated pretty well. I haven't had any health issues, at least, God willing, for the past year. Somebody sent me some money, so thank you. I appreciate that. I thought I had to like activate something for you guys to donate. But yeah, I'll just do this for you guys. It does help. So if you're wondering why, so thank you, Customs Journey. I don't know how to pin it. Uh, yeah, I don't know how Big Boy does that. So yeah, so thank you. I appreciate every striking thing that I get. I started out just wanting to help the community, but the money does help. I won't lie to you. I have a baby on the way. So all of this information and these printers and stuff and me becoming a supplier pretty soon, all of these things are on my dime. And so it comes from me running my shop up here out of Cedar Hill, 10 minutes from Dallas, Texas. So I appreciate any striking thing that I get, but it's just not my nature to put like my Cash App. Now, for people to do that, it's okay. I really wasn't raised to do that, and it's not pride. It's just I'm just not wired to do that. But anybody that chooses to donate anything to me, I really do appreciate it. I don't care if it's $1. I appreciate it. So yeah, if we have some more questions here, really enjoy the info you put out. Thanks. And the reason why I'm able to put out this sort of information is it isn't because of me. I'm not special. I have high what do you I have high self-esteem, but I don't want to fly too close to the sun either, so to speak. So I'm able to give quality information because I guess we can segue into this. I hunt for mentors. So when it comes to anything, rather, it doesn't even have to be about printing. When it comes to learning something, learning a craft, you have to hunt for a mentor. Sometimes they might not be able to respond to you because I call it, they're too busy counting money, so that's a joke, but they have other things going on. So you can't get frustrated when you post in like the social media groups, Facebook groups, and DTF groups, and you feel like no one's helping when they clearly can. You have to think about, even me, I've been accused of it. It doesn't bother me, but I do. My business will also have a heart element to it because I get so many messages from people asking certain questions about printer models and all these different things. And so, with a baby on the way, my wife's 5 months pregnant. So, we're back and forth, with the doctor. Everything's fine, by the way. So, this is our first baby. We've been married almost 8 years, and this is our first child. So, it's not that I don't care or that I don't want to help you. It's just they're only 24 hours in a day, and I still have all these other duties. So he says, you take the time that coming from you. I really appreciate it. But when I started this, and I don't want it to be woe is me, you know, like, I don't want it to be woe is me, but here's the truth. So when I first started, and trust me, this I'm just being transparent. I don't care either way. So when I first started YouTube, I did it to help and I did it to support. There were not that many people, English speaking people on YouTube showing how to convert printers and stuff. And then I even had uh, I won't get too far into that, but suppliers that spent 2 hours on the phone calling me trying to convince me not to create the 7890 conversion video for you guys. But I'd already given the YouTube community my word. I said that, hey, I'm going to show myself like actually converting these printers and all this. So I gave my word. But they spent and offered me products and said they'll ship me a curing unit. Remember, I said I didn't need one at cost. And they didn't want me putting out that information, because that would affect their bottom line. But I chose to do it. So I did all those things out of my heart. But I would have people that messaged me and found my personal Facebook page and all of that. And that's okay. But they're just messaging me, hey, you saved my life. Person sent me a message in Russian and I had to convert it. But he's like, hey, man, you saved my life. No one's doing DTF printing in Russia. And I have a couple of people in Italy saying that whenever I'm in Italy, they have my back. All I need to do is pay for the flight. So I have all these things that people are telling me, and I'm just appreciative of it. And so once we found out we were having the baby, then I said, okay, well, I have to put more time into my shop and saving so that I can start selling printers and stuff, some of the things I wanted to do. But I have to budget these things. So I have to pull back from the YouTube stuff. So then some of the same people that were telling me these things, remind you, I did the stuff for free. They were just take and take and take and take and take. And that has, there's a weight that I have to carry with that. And again, it's not woe is me, but it made me want to pull back a little bit because I didn't see any results from that monetarily. So when I created an actual like a consultation fee, it wasn't that much. I just wanted to let people know, hey, if it takes me an hour to help you, this is what it's going to cost. There's crickets in the chat. I didn't hear any word back. So I had a talk with the wife, and she said, well, Jay, you need to keep doing your YouTube. People are depending on you to put this information out there. And I said, yeah, but I don't feel the value. And she said, did you start YouTube to make money, or did you why did you start it? And her and I never had that conversation. This is what I was doing. And I said, no, I didn't start it for the money. So she said, well, do it as a charity. And if things come your way, that's fine. So it's good to have that balance, that other half, to show you what's really important. So here in a little bit, I have probably 7 or 8 videos that I've filmed. It's already structured. I just need to find the time to edit and put it out there. So I will be uploading more soon here. And the YouTube paid membership area, I think it's like $5, $15, and $25 a month. So I need to start posting to that, so that if anyone wants to support what we're doing monthly, can go back into the channel, so that I don't have to pay for all this stuff. We can upgrade some camera equipment and stuff before the baby gets here, and maybe even do some lifestyle stuff. Not that my lifestyle is that interesting, but yeah, if anybody, it's enough talk about my personal life here. I didn't intend to get into that, but when you mentioned that customs journey, that is relevant, you know. So I wouldn't say that you should support me because I'm putting it out there, but I will say that it does help when there are a couple people that are like, here's a couple of dollars, man. You really helped me out. So let's shift gears. I don't know what else I could talk about. Talked about the hygrometer, moisture imprints, those are related. Curing time and temperatures, 170 Celsius for me. These are my settings at about 2 to 3 minutes, and that tends to cure the sheets as fast as we need them and accurately, or efficiently, I guess it should be. Uh, what else here? I'm making sure I didn't miss anything. Uh, hmm. I'm trying to think of other questions people have asked me. Uh, Man, I wish we had some questions flowing through here. Okay, so some people have asked me about the maintenance, and also what's the best DTF printer. So that's a mixed bag. He said you got to start writing it down. Yeah, man, definitely. So uh, the mix the mixed bag of DTF. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. That's a good mindset to have, and I'm the same way, man. If I feel like, I'll come to someone and offer to pay them before I even ask the question, you know. And so, because I understand what that feels like to be on the other side, like, hey, I know you're busy or whatever. How can I pay? You know, what would you charge to show me this? I know your time is limited. And I've also seen where I had every intention of charging someone a consultation fee, but it was the way they came at me, you know, right? Like, they just said, hey, you know, I'm really in a situation right now. This printer won't print. I'll pay you whatever. Just, I need to be up and running by tomorrow. I ended up helping them for free because they had the spirit. They respected my time, and it made me want to give back to them. So it wasn't about money. I felt like I wanted to pay it forward. And so the only reason I'm mentioning that is because it's relevant. But yeah, you'd be surprised to find out who will help you if you're wanting to find a mentor and you're willing to pay for their time. They just might want to help you just to see you win. So it's yeah. So when it comes to yeah, good afternoon, Baby Giant Services. Thank you for tuning in. As I mentioned before, you guys could be anywhere in the world right now, but you chose to watch this random guy on YouTube. So I appreciate that. Uh, so I have people that have messaged me and they're afraid of the maintenance, right? Like with the DTF printer. So I couldn't put it in terms of like a percentage, you know, up to 100. Like, but I would, if I had to, I would say like probably 20% of DTF is going to be, no, I'd say, let's just do two. Let's say 70/30. I would say 70% is the ink or your consumables. I'll just say that. And the other 30% is going to be the actual printer, that model that you buy. Unless you buy one of those small ones, I won't even name the model printer. I don't want to start any fires or any wars or anything like that. Some people, yeah, please hit the like button. I didn't think to ask that. So thank you. Please help me out with that. Just a like. And hopefully it'll share it with people so that they can see decent people doing DTF instead of the gurus and the other guys who have zero interest in helping you guys. With that said, I won't mention the smaller model printer only because there are people that make them work. Veronica Hernandez is a person, Iron Designs on YouTube, search her up. She's also helped me a lot of bit behind the scenes here with the P5000 setup and everything. So with that, it's people like her can make them work. She has a whole bunch of different printers, but she has the knowledge behind the maintenance and she understands certain things about the printer. So some of those smaller format printers, you can, everybody has to start somewhere. I don't want to discourage somebody from jumping into DTF, but some of the factors that I will consider would be, if you, and this is if you haven't even started with DTF, some of these factors would be, I guess a checklist would be, what is your budget, right? Like if you have $2,000, I honestly don't think uh, that is enough for a quality DTF setup. You can do it, but take it from me, $2,000, if that's your budget right now, I would say that you would pay someone, uh, I would say for you to pay someone to print your quality. No. So pay someone to actually do your artwork. If you have a product line or t-shirt line or whatever, I will pay a graphic designer to design your artwork for DTF. So I'll spend some money there. And then I would spend some money with a quality DTF transfer vendor and have them actually print your transfers for you to start out, and then you use some of the capital from the sale of those shirts with those quality designs that you know will sell, and you put some more money back to save up for a quality DTF setup. You don't need a commercial printer if that even exists, because all of these printers, they're Epson based systems, so they're based. They feature Epson heads, so it's going to be a DX6. Some of them use the i3200. Some use the X P600 heads or whatever. So these are all the same print heads, whether it's a desktop, you have a commercial desktop printer, and then you have the smaller format. Now, the smaller format printers, I would say to watch out for them. That's why I wouldn't even recommend it, because if you think in terms of what these printers were designed to do, they were designed to print OEM ink. We have latex-based ink. Basically, inks that were, the composition of them are likened to that of solvent-based printing. So you're talking almost like oil-based or latex-based printers that print ink that were running through aqueous or water-based systems. So because we need to start with the fact that we shouldn't even be putting this ink in our DTF printers, if you start with that fact, it helps to understand why we have rigorous maintenance with some of these setups. And when I mentioned the 70-30, right, the reason why I put more focus on your consumables is because it doesn't matter what kind of printer. You can have a commercial, meant for DTF that doesn't even exist, but meant for DTF commercial based printing system, and you have crap ink in it, right? And it's not your fault. You didn't sell yourself the inks. So if you put crap inks in it, it's still going to clog your system, and you still are out of pocket waiting on a new print head or a capping station once it's destroyed from the inks. That's why I place more importance on the consumables versus the actual printer itself. Now, don't count the commercial grade printers out. So when I talk about that doesn't exist, the only thing you're going to gain with the smaller format or commercial desktop or a full commercial, robust 24-inch, 44-inch system, whatever, is going to be speed. All right. So, like, let's say you have $8,000 that you want to spend on a printer, but you don't have the footprint for it in your house or in your shop. Those are things to consider. And also, even if you have the money to do it, you need to keep that printer running. So if you're not going to have the uh, the amount of jobs, or there's no point in having that fast workflow if you don't even have the jobs to run through it to keep it maintained and operating. So there are many different factors when it comes to DTF, and you know, yeah, and are you willing to do the maintenance? DTF may not be for you, and I don't want to make it seem like a nightmare. My maintenance is every probably 3 to 4 days, but I will run a heavy clean on this unit here. But it's not this rigorous maintenance, but it starts with the way I've customized these channels. And some of this stuff, at least with the P5000, is so nuanced to where I don't necessarily want to share that some of this information, only because when things go wrong, who are you going to blame? Because you learned it from me. So those are some of the things that I encounter. Thanks again for asking everybody to hit the like button. I really appreciate it. 13 people watching now, more than I could have hoped for. Let's see if I can answer another question. I don't want to ramble too much. Uh, how does your DTF printer perform? Solid colors versus gradient color. If your printer is running optimally, you you won't have any sort of problem with performance, because with the actual performance of the printer based on certain factors. So if you're doing your maintenance, you can print with one of these. Again, I won't mention, I don't want to promote it, but you can buy one of these smaller format printers from Best Buy or Dell and convert them. People do it successfully. No, I'm not knocking them. But if you buy one of those printers and you know what you're getting into for that $2,000, you can produce some great quality prints because it's an Epson-based system. It was made to print photographs. The issue that you're going to have with performance, again, is going to be with the type of consumables that you buy, and also I want to clear up to make another distinction, and I said it to Big Boy the other day. Hey, Eddie Bertley or Bertelli. Well, no, it's either Italian or it's Bertley. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Carlos 420 says, how's the 7890 going? So the 7890, I need to replace the capping station on it, and it has nothing to do. I don't think it doesn't have anything to do with the inks that I ran through it. It's just an older printer. So just like the 7890, the belt, right? And then I'll jump back to what I was talking about if I can remember it. So somebody help me in the comments if I forget. So, um, so and I'll try to get to all of these questions. I like doing. I have to start doing this maybe every Monday. Don't quote me on it. But we're talking about 7890. So the 7890, when you think of a printer that's matter of fact, I don't even know when it came out. 70 or Epson. So when you think of these printers, some of these printers are like 15 years old, 10 years old. So Stylus, I think it's a Stylus Pro. I'll say release date. See, the Epson 7890, it came out, the release date was July 17th, 2007. So when you buy one of these printers, they are workhorses. I may buy them locally and convert them for people, but it won't be $15,000. There are people that they hike the price way up, and then they are trying to give you a sale price of $8,000, but it's because they couldn't sell them at 15,000. But they took some people. So even if I decided to jump into the fray, join the fray, or whatever, we're talking about trying to offer warranties on printers that were made a long time ago. So I didn't go back to the guy that I originally bought the 7890 from and say, hey man, the belt broke on it. Because we had to fix it. That video's in the paid membership of YouTube area. I've had a couple people where their belts broke, and so they just joined the monthly subscription thing to have access to that video. But I didn't go back to him and say, hey man, what's wrong with this printer? Because the printer, it was released in July of 2007. It's just time to replace these parts. So the issue with it now is that the capping station is down in it, and it just may be time to replace it. I didn't see any signs of gummed up or dried inks in the lines. It's just not sucking the way it's supposed to be. It's not and even when the print head is seated properly, it's just not drawing that ink. Even when I did an initial fill on it, the initial fill command is supposed to purge the entire system. And once I pulled the maintenance box from it, there was no ink in a fresh maintenance tank. So that tells me that the it's time for a new capping station. So the pump cap assembly is probably around $400. So I, I just don't have the time to like do that. So I'll probably refurbish it, probably for a subscriber. Who knows? I'll probably do a giveaway at some. I don't know. So we'll figure it out. But I'll probably just convert it or to flush the inks out, replace everything on it, and then make sure it's DTF ready, and we'll sell it or give it away or something. So that's what's going on with the 7890. Still great printer, but when you buy it, just realize that these parts have a life cycle. How does your okay? I already said that. Custom Journey says, I know people are intimidated by the maintenance, but many don't understand the process of maintenance on their specific printer. Right. So you have this P5000 that has like a spitting box on it. 7890 has a spitting box, so it's designed to print. I won't say 24 hours a day. You could do very long runs because it was meant to be a photographic printer. That's why it's on a roll feed. It was meant to spit out prints all day, but that was with an aqueous ink, not latex based, basically solvent or like a DuPont weight heavy ink. So it's going to require some maintenance. And if you don't keep prints running through it, you will have some issues over time. Now, where the quality of the consumables come into play would be how long it takes your ink to separate. So when you buy inks from someone, just leave it, sacrifice some of it, pour it in a bottle, a clear bottle with the cap on it, and just leave it on the counter before you even introduce it into your system and see how long it takes to separate. So your white ink shouldn't separate every day. So when we talk about shaking our carts, if you have at this stage of the game, right, a year ago, I didn't realize all these things. So with DTF printing, I didn't realize that you really shouldn't have to shake your ink carts or your dampers every single day. That white ink should not be separating like that, not so easily. They will over time, but like big boys, whites, I left the bottle sitting there for 3 4 weeks, and it separated like an eighth of an inch from what I could visually see. And so that's what you want. You want to be able to, for your inks to be shaken just with the daily, or not daily, but the weekly replacing of the ink in the carts themselves. That's enough to shake it. But these are things that I didn't know. So we're all growing at the same time, but at our own pace. So moving on. Uh, hey, everyone. What if you're not printing and you keep piezo flush in it while you're not using it? What I would say on that, it depends on how long you're not using it. Like let's say what I would do. Let's say I were going, and it depends on the printer model. We were just talking about that. So this is what I learned from one of my mentors. He has zero interest in YouTube and being on YouTube. He actually looks like an older version of me, which is really weird. And his wife was a teacher; she's retired, and my wife's a teacher right now. So it's really crazy how all that panned out. But what he said is that, Jay, you don't need to rush, like dump all of these inks and sacrifice your piezo flush. This stuff's expensive, man. So he said if I were going on vacation, he said I don't really DTF print, but he said what I would do is probably it's genius, man. He said I would take a grocery bag. Let's say you're going on vacation for a week or so, he said I would take a grocery bag and then I would take a rubber band and I would pop the damper kit on it. So he said I would basically take the housing off the print head, pop the damper kit, so you have the dampers, put the dampers inside the grocery bag, and then put a rubber band around that so that keeps your lines from bleeding through and receding. Depending on your printer model, you can do that with the 7890 without it receding because it's on a vacuum. So once you do that, it's actually going to release ink from underneath the head. So you'd have to put a paper towel down underneath the head to catch that residual ink that drops through. And then he said I would go ahead and do a reverse flush on the inlets within the manifold of the print head, and I would just leave them there. So if you've seen my videos on the L1800, good morning, Lady Print Boss. It's glad to see you here. I appreciate you. We've got to get together, but me, you, big boy. I met T-shirt chick. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. So we need to all do something together for the culture, for the DTF community, and it's good to see more of us in printing, and we need to also pay it forward. So I'm really eager to work with you. So if you could reach out to me, I'll reach out to you. But we'll get together. Thank you, Lady Print Boss, for being here. Go and check out her channel. She is a pioneer when it comes to DTF and printing in general. So I just wanted to make a note of that. But yeah, so he said he would pop the damper kit, grocery bag with a rubber band, so it's not going to dry out, it's not going to recede. Then cleaning solution, so not too abrasive, but draw that cleaning solution up in the tubing. Yeah, so if you can see this, we have the little aquarium tubing. I don't know what gauge this is, but you would draw up some of the this capping solution, but cleaning solution, draw it up a little bit, and you would place this on the inlet and just leave it there. So that's going to help break up any sort of inks that may would have clogged the head. And then the capping station, instead of wet capping, you could just literally put some solution in the capping station and then just leave it there, because the cap or the capping station, it just needs to stay moist basically. So if you're not gone from a month, the entire system will be fine. And so I just looked at him like, what would make you do that? So I had to find these mentors and to help me think in a way that's different. So moving on, I have one Epson SC P6000 in DTF. Hey Eddie, have you gotten it up and running? Because the P6000, it's these series printers, they don't have the proper arc chips or what you call a decoder, which would trick the printer into thinking that it's firmless, that the arc chipset is firmless. So because we haven't developed that, or they haven't developed that overseas yet, they haven't been able to bypass this, and it's a mixed bag. And I would hate to buy it as P6000. A lot of people buy these things because they see that it's basically the same printer. It replaced the 7890 in that whole series. So, but in with the P6000, they have this new, I guess it'd be hardware technically, but it's basically built into their new system where each cartridge comes from a serial, a set, and each set has its own serial number. So when you actually install this cart into the bay, the printer keeps a log of it, and I want to say it's 21 times from what I've heard. But after 21 resets, yeah, you can print, but it's going to register, and the printer's going to basically say, "Hey, yeah, you've reset me, but we've been here before. Find another serial." So then you have to buy new arc chips or new carts or whatever, and hope that it's not from that same series of cereal. So for you to buy it your own and convert it, kudos to you. But I would never sell a P6000. I would be more inclined to sell the 7890 because while they've discontinued it, there's still parts around that you can get at a reasonable price. And it's just too much. Even with the P5000, it's so nuanced. I'm having to become a pioneer for this printer model to know the ins and outs. I think I'm close to where I can be able to sell these things, but before I take a dime of anyone's money, we are about 3 months into me rigorously testing this. And I guess for now, I want to segue. I believe in giving people their flowers. So you don't know who these people are, but these people have either checked on me personally to find out how how Jay was doing outside of printing as a human being when I wasn't on YouTube. So either that, they've helped me with some of my setup and my theories on how, it sounds like it's more than it is, but my theories on how I would set up the channels and what issues we can have down the lines. I think I've come up with something just brilliant with it, though, to be honest with you. But they have helped me with that setup, and they've also just encouraged me to keep going. And that's going to be Wendy Cox, Terrell Carter, Marco Morales, Jimmy Darrows, Tina, David Zhao, and Monique Najiro. So I did want to make a note of that and thank these people for actually checking on me, because we're people first. Despite what knowledge we have and everything, check on your folks. People are going through a lot. You never know what people are going through. So thank you for the support. She just said, hey, I can't get my 7890 to print. I checked the head and it's not clogged. When I try to do nozzle checks, nothing prints. So when you say that you check the head and it's not clogged, are you saying that when you actually tried to do a reverse pull, it wasn't any resistance to that? Or are you saying that you were able to perform a nozzle check test and it printed, but when you go to do a print, it won't actually print? So, oh no, I'm sorry. You literally said that when I try to do a nozzle check. So how do you know that the print head is good if it can't perform a nozzle test? So that would be my only question with that. Have you recently replaced the head? So if you're saying that the print head's not clogged, it could have been where if you replace the head on it, you may have fried one of the, like a fuse on the main board, from what I've heard in the groups. And sometimes it could be something as simple as you not wearing latex gloves. People think it's because you're a pretty boy or whatever, but it's not necessarily that. The slightest amount of static in your hands can actually short out these ribbon cables and you'd never even know it. And the printer will go through the motions of printing, but you wouldn't even know that these components are fried. And you're playing the waiting game on parts to come in, and you don't even know if those said parts is what actually stop the printer from printing. It could be that the encoder strip is dirty, it looks like tape, a little strip that runs across the side, and it's usually like a yellowish or bluish tinted color. But it could just be the encoder strip. Oh, you're welcome, Eddie. And I would say the only company, to be honest with you, I'm just honest. Yeah, I have affiliates, memberships and stuff with some of these companies, but aside from that, uh, I keep talking about DTG Pro, but they have a couple of engineers, from what I've told from the owner, and they have found a way to bypass uh, this P6000 setup to where it renders the printer firmless, or thinks it is. So, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with those old Bush's Baked Bean commercials, but they say, what's the dog's name, Duke or whatever? He's like, he ain't sharing. Well, DTG Pro ain't sharing. So it's like you either buy a unit from them or I don't know. But see, the P6000 is such a new printer that you can just resell it as is. You don't need to, just flush it again, put the OEM carts in there, and you can sell it. And that's if you can't figure out the DTF. But it's such a new printer that somebody's looking for it. And I would rather you get into, like, just go into getting another system, take a little loss versus the downtime. And you may be printing with it. If you are, kudos to you. But if you run into too many issues with it, remember that these printers are the backbones of our business, because we're getting rid of vinyl. So you can't be down from printing for too many days before it just becomes like it's not even worth them. It's like the loss of income from not being able to print outweighs the money that you would have lost by selling the system, if that makes sense. So take it from me, I learned the hard way. Um, uh, Limits of resetting several times. Sorry for my English. I'm a French man. Hey, thank man. Watching from France. I never even thought, this is just so incredible to me that I would just sit up and talk in front of a camera and that people across the planet will see this stuff. So that's the wife, Lacey Young. Oh, I got a groupie here. Who is Lacey Young? Yeah. Hey dear, get back to work. Oh, I guess she's on lunch right now. Okay, so moving on. I just purchased two Epson 7890 and 7900. Do you have the website to buy parts? You mentioned about when you're not printing, it is okay to leave piezo flush in it while you're not printing. Yes, you can do that. I would cut the piezo flush, because when you talk about, piezo was made. It's highly concentrated, man. It is. So I would cut it probably with 1 part piezo, 2 part water, and you can leave it in the printer indefinitely. It's not going to damage the head or anything like that. And if it's going to be for an extended period of time, don't do as I mentioned before with the grocery bag and all this stuff, and putting it on inlets. I would say in that case, you could go ahead and have it dock, clean the surface of the head so unseat the print head as you normally would when you're doing your maintenance. So you would enter the wet cap or white cap mode, undock it, and then clean the surface, do the paper towel method, turn it on, let it actually reseat, run a couple of initial fills to get all of the inks purged, and then from there I would put a new maintenance tank in it, because after you dump that ink, let's say it sits for a year, you can come back to printing, but that residual ink is gonna be mold. It's gonna mold. You're talking about darkness. Usually people put them in storage units and stuff, so I would look out for that. Yeah, but piezo would be fine. Just make sure you cut it, because you could damage the life of the print head. You can mess with the integrity of the print head over time if you just put straight piezo flush, and it would be super expensive. So I wouldn't recommend that. But don't use Windex. I got to do a video on that. So it's a joke. If you use Windex, more power to you. But I have to do a video on from an actual chemist and a guy who operates, I think it's like 20 something printers. And maybe even if I can get Jose Rodriguez. I know you guys probably don't know who he is, but most of this knowledge that you're hearing from me, it came from him starting out. I've already given him his flowers. I reached out to him. But if I can do a video with him on Windex, so you can understand the type of Windex, the fact that print heads are made with newer components and some of them are copper, and it talks about oxidizing and stuff over time. It's not something that you would just recognize after a year of printing. We're talking about wanting to print with the same head for years as possible. I printed with the L1800 for a little over a year. Same print head, same OEM print head, never disconnected the head. So you can look at your print head as a consumable with DTF, but with proper maintenance, quality consumables, you should not be going through a print head every month or every quarter like some of these people are saying. Just switch your supplier on the ink side. So moving on. So website. I have my links. Hey, I'm gonna put this in the comments so people can see. This isn't a secret or anything, but I'm gonna do it right now, and that's so I don't forget. so I don't forget. Let me find out the source. DTF printing. I like this live thing. It's just kind of like I don't know. This separates the wheat from the chaff. This separates, like, I have to know this stuff, or at least tell you that I can find the information on the fly. It's like not rehearsed. It's just it's organic, man. If I don't know, I just don't know, and if I can help you, I can help you. So uh, yeah, because I looked up the pump cap. Yes, s.parts.com. So I'm gonna put this in the link, or I'll put a link in the description. Now this would be a link for the um, the 7890 head, I believe. Oh no, you know what? Let's do. Just gonna give the main link to the site, and then you can research your own parts based on Epson's part list. Great resource, quality parts. It's a free gem. I'm glad that you asked for this. Okay. Yeah, thanks, man. Jose Rodriguez. Some people say he's boring, but some people, the reason why I didn't do YouTube for the longest time is because I thought that who my voice is monotone. Who wants to watch me for an hour? And so I let those limiting beliefs keep me from doing it. And then when it came to going live, for 6 months I've been wanting to go live. But that's it's you just have to jump out there and do it. See, let the arrows fall where they may, so to speak, and then some people may be blessed by it if we happen to know what we're doing. So this is going to be the link for the 7890 capping station. This is so I will bookmark this. That way you don't have to look up the part, the manufacturer's serial number for it. Oh, in the Caribbean. Okay, okay. All the way from the Caribbean. I appreciate you watching, man, tuning in. So that second one is the capping station. That's what I need to order for the 7890. I just haven't wanted to honestly put the resources into something like that. Um, Big Boy uses ammonia. Um, Let me fact check. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm just gonna be honest. I love Big Boy, but there's things I didn't know either, so I had to kind of learn. Okay, so ammonia is what we call caustic, so it has a tendency to erode certain compounds. And I'm not saying not to use ammonia, but I think it's gonna be a little too abrasive for your print head over time. And so when we think of how so, I would say the print head it has there's a slight of film that's like glued to the surface of the head, like the underside, and when that finish is taken off of that, we call it delamination. So when your print head delaminates, it's pretty much done. It's toast. It's cooked. It's done. Whatever. So because ammonia is a caustic chemical, or it has a tend to erode things. It's abrasive. It's a harsh chemical. I would really, really cut it with distilled water, and but I don't. If it works for you, it works for you. I would just say over time, just monitor it and let me know if it doesn't harm your head. But I don't know if I would use ammonia. Yeah, and I'm learning for everyone. Yeah, so the 3880, uh, I feel two ways about that printer because that was one of my first printers. There's a story that comes behind that. Uh, I guess I'll tell you. Hey, we're here. So the reason why I love the not for a DTF printers, this is a two-parter. The reason why, and I think I mentioned in the video, I had a woman, she actually messaged me. And she said, hey, you said the 3880 was your favorite printer of all time. Why? This is why. I never said it in the video. So I was working for my father-in-law. This is back in, yeah, I guess it would have been 2011, because it was right before I started the business. And so it wasn't even t-shirts that I wanted to print first. It was some like mouse pads. I wanted to print my own mouse pad. And he said, Jay, have you even saved a dime for that printer? He said, and I said, huh? And he said, yeah, man, every day we come to work, you'd start talking about, man, once I get this printer. He said, what kind of printer is it? And I said, well, it's the Epson 3880. He's like, well, I don't even know what that is. But he said, have you saved a dime for it? And I hadn't. That was the truth. So my feelings were hurt a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So, but you have to have people that are going to shoot straight with you and help you, call you on your BS, basically. So I was like, no, I haven't. So I was in my feelings a little bit because I thought he's kind of rude, like that was messed up. But the next day I started saving, or the next check I started saving up for it. And so one time, and this is, mind you, this is when the 3880 costs as much as the P6000 right now. It's a brand new printer at the time. So, um, so once I bought it, I love the quality of it, and then I eventually converted that to sublimation ink. And this, I was doing sublimation, not to sound like that, it's just the truth. I was doing sublimation back in 2012. So the reason why you guys don't see sublimation videos from me is because it's just I've done those things. And so when I do sublimation, I do get comments and people ask, oh, how do you get it so vibrant or whatever. If y'all are interested in that, I can do a couple sublimation videos, probably put them in the paid membership area, because I want this channel to be about DTF printing. That's where we started. So I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to create a problem for myself and people say, oh, you can convert that to DTF. So, but aside from that, I started saving up. And fast forward 2 or 3 years later, I had three 3880s. And so that's why the 3880 is my favorite printer. Now, enter the part two, right? So the part two to that is that I don't like the 3880 for DTF. And what I call some of these printers, I call them closed systems. Like, I don't know a lot about cars, but I do know I had a Dodge Caliber, and something happened with the transmission. It's all relevant. Dodge Caliber, we go to get the transmission fluid changed, and he said, well, you can't we can't add transmission fluid. This is a CVT. So I'm like, what is a CVT? He said it's a closed system. There's a different way you have to basically flush it, and in flushing it, if we don't know exactly where to dial it in at, then it could actually damage your transmission. And so I was like, well, okay, well, just go ahead and flush it, because it was kind of uh, stalling, like it was grinding when it was, I think, coming out of first even. So it ended up messing, like destroying the transmission. But I told him to do that. We just had to get another car. So when you talk about a closed system, I relate the car with DTF printing. So a closed system in printing, I would say, is that you have to take the entire, not chassis, but the cover. You have to take the entire cover off the printer just to get to the print head, to the carriage, because the mouth, or whatever, the opening on that printer is probably this big. So if you have larger hands, you can't even really get in there to work around. So when it's time to do heavy maintenance, you it's you I'd have to print with it off, and that would open up the likelihood of dust getting in, because that's why the cover exists, so that the dust doesn't get on your encoder strip and things that don't need to have dust on them for it to function. So you can print with the 3880 if you have great inks, but in order to access the cart, sometimes the 3880 was one where if you weren't using OEM carts, sometimes the cart won't read. And if the cart won't read properly, you're not getting that print. It won't print anything until all of those carts are seated just perfectly. And that whole 3800 series is kind of like that. And it's a hit or miss. So if you have a 3880 that you're running refillable carts, you're doing DTF, you're running just fine, kudos. Again, I'm not going to discourage anyone, but if you're thinking about buying one, these are things that if you don't know these things going into it, you think you're ready to go and you have orders. And the last thing you want is to buy a printer. You have orders that people have paid for, and you're unable to print those orders. So, yeah, some of these answers are kind of long, but I just want you to understand what you're getting into. And again, eventually I'll be selling some of these printers and consumables. I have my own line. It's going to. I've already registered everything, so it's called Pop DTF. So that's a double entendre for colors popping, obviously, and the other would be POP, progressive print. I've always said I'm in it for the progressive print. Focus on that first. But when we start selling these printers and stuff like that, I have to think about the end user. So I don't want someone to buy a printer from me and then I can't help them with the carts because I haven't really thought about what model printer I wanted to use. Oh yeah, he cuts it with distilled water. Okay, that's the way to go. That's the only way I would say ammonia. It's gonna clean it. It's gonna clean it perfectly though. Let's start there. So it's gonna work for sure. I'm just interested in the longevity of the head. Yeah, Eddie, no problem. And I have to find mentors and find people that can help me with some of this stuff so that this information could be disseminated or whatever you want to say it, passed on, so that you can one day help whoever else that comes underneath. And so this stuff doesn't really come from me or my intelligence or intellect or anything like that, but more so the people that I'm trying to lock arms with to help problem solve. The moment that you buy a DTF printer, you become a pioneer. You when it breaks down and it's 2 in the morning, Jay might not be available. Elegant Edits may not be available, but you got orders to print the next day. And so the moment you buy one of these printers, you have to become a pioneer or even I would say a practitioner of this craft. You have to be able to problem solve. Like one of my mentors, he's told me how to save about $60 to $70 every time I run an initial fill. It's a dirty process, but I'm trying to lock arms with people like him because the way some of you guys look at me and you're like, how do you know all this stuff? I look at him, my mind's blown. And so he said, Jay, we're going to put 9 volts up to this pump. So he took a pump out of like a 9880 and he put it over a bucket. And so we removed the lines on his 7890. And he still has it for sale. If you're looking for a 7890, he has it. It's ready to be sold. We just hadn't. So get with me on that if you're interested in the 7890. But so he still has it, still available. But we took the line, or he took the lines off of it, and so he plugged it up to what's now an external pump from the 9880, and he just he puts 9 volts onto the pump cap assembly, and it suctions that ink from the head or through the lines. So when he did, when he explained it to me, I was like, how would you think of, like, what kind of mind, what kind of a galaxy brain would come up with that? And he said, well, I'm cheap. And he said the pump works the same way on the outside of the printer as it does on the inside of the printer. So I have to tell him, like, how do you think in that way? So if you ever hear that or see me do that in a video one day, you're going to look at me the same way I looked at him, but it has nothing to do with me. I have this hunger to find a mentor. I have to find the knowledge because uh, Big Boy he made a statement the other day. He's like, Jay, where do you go to become an Epson technician? And I said, huh? He's like, yeah, like, where do you go to learn how to be an Epson technician? What kind of, like, how do you find that, whatever that is? I said, I don't know. Where do Epson technicians go for training? There's no facility. Epson doesn't have like warehouses, you know what I'm saying, or like facilities where you go through training. At least I don't think. But I said, I don't know. So we need to cling on to the people that have this knowledge and preserve it so that we can create it in a quick, condensed way as YouTubers to people who are going through some of these same issues. So So are latex and eco-solvent printers better suited for DTF printing from a maintenance and runtime standpoint? Yes, and that's because some of these heads, like the I-3200 heads, that's some of, if you've seen dual head or even quad. Dennis Moon out of Crum, Texas, he has some quad quad head printers. So that's four print heads bound together, and it's just spray, 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 spray. I mean, he's pumping them out. So they also sell transfers. So the name of Dennis Moon's company is Classic TL Caps. He has a cap embroidery business from the ground up, but he also sells quality DTF transfers. Customer service excellent. I wanted to note that. So if you have $2,000, you could either buy one of those small printers that we won't mention, or you can pay someone like Dennis to run these transfers out, get them to you within a day or so, and you can focus on building up capital to buy a larger system. Uh, but those heads, to answer your question, custom. So, try to answer your question. When you talk about the latex or eco solvent based printers, that ink is more dense because it's meant for exterior stuff, right? So like you can't just use this printer as it is with OEM ink and then print a banner and put it outside because the UV rays from the sun are going to make it fade. So for the inks in those eco solvent printers to be uh, UV resistant, that ink is heavier. It's formulated differently. It's meant to take a beating, and so when DTF, it's not that that crazy, but that's why we get the stretchability and we get 50 plus washes per shirts. I've printed shirts a year almost in 3 4 months ago, for my wife, and she wears them every 2 or 3. Well, she's pregnant now, so not here lately because she got that belly. But she used to wear these shirts like once every 2 weeks. So I've seen her wear these shirts and wash them, and the shirts have like shrunk by now, but the design is still near perfect. And that's my honest truth. So the reason for this washability and all of that, it has to be a durable ink. And with that thick ink, some of the so when you think about the smaller format printers, and all this is relevant, the smaller format printers, again, that I won't, I hate them, but people do great prints with them. I don't like them for people starting out, but you got to start somewhere. So the capping, the gauge, the whatever, I put it somewhere, but that syringe, yeah. So the capping station that leads to from the capping station to the maintenance tank or the ink waste line or whatever, if you have a bottle where it's been routed to a bottle, those the gauge of that is smaller than this on one of those smaller printers. So when you think of latex ink, you know, heavy, heavy, dense ink. When like think of when you go and you take a DTF print, either before or after you powder, let it dry and then peel it off the surface of that. And look how thick that is. And think about that being like you're not printing every single day, and that ink is going through these small lines. When it clogs and it makes a gel around the seal of the capping station, the print head can't seat properly, and then because it can't seat properly, it can't suck the ink off of the surface of the head properly. The ink dries out on the head. Once it dries out on the head, it absorbs or it goes through. If you think of a straw, I don't have one, but if you think of a straw, if you have a drink, this is why I don't wet cap. You put your thumb over the drink and you can suction it up and try your friend's drink. The reason why you can do that is because you've now put a vacuum on that. The same thing is happening in the print head or through the dampers. So when you talk about people wet capping, the reason why their color starts to cross is because it's on a vacuum. So that straw, the tiny microscopic straws inside the head or through the lines, it's on a vacuum. So it's slowly sucking that ink up through the capping station into your colors. So when you go to do the head cleanings, there's still possibly, if this happens to you, there's still ink mixing and being contaminated by your cleaning solution, and that's what you're printing out. So when you think of a small, tiny printer like that, the line, it's just not built for that. These printers aren't even built for it, but at least the lines are this, if not thicker, so that it won't have a tendency to dry out and problems develop. So that's the long answer. I never wanted to put that in a YouTube video. I guess it is now, but I don't want to discourage people from trying. I'm never going to tell you, hey, don't do this, but I want to say, just be. I want you to do your due diligence and say, okay, if I buy a $2,000 setup, Jay has already said, okay, don't expect it to last a long time, but if I do it, I need to have quality. My inks need to be great. So let me hop over into this DTF scammers group on YouTube, or no, I'm sorry, on the DTF scammers group on Facebook. Go into that group and search these suppliers' names and see if you find elegant edits plastered in this group telling people telling you not to buy from me and don't buy from me. So do that with some of these companies and make sure you have quality consumables if you're going to start with one of these small printers. But understand that you need to make your capital, your return on investment first, and build up the capital to know that system isn't going to last. So there's that. Hey, Seven Davis, this person is one of my first subscribers and supporters, and Clenty Polo, another person who's very special to me, is a graphic designer. I want to give back to not just people that give back to me, but some of the first people that watched the content and actually found me in my personal profile and just checked on me and stuff like that. He says, "Hello, Jay. What do you still have your 7890? What is the new printer I see?" So this is a multifaceted answer. I won't be too long-winded with it, but long story short, I'm trying not to get in trouble here. This is a P5000, and I have a couple here. And so my printing, I'll be a supplier soon. So I'm going to be selling these P5000s, but I've spent probably almost 4 months rigorous testing, finding the ins and outs, and talking to a lot of people. So that's what you see here. DTG Pro sent me this printer, and I'm trying to find the best way to say it. But we're helping each other on getting these systems figured out because it's still new. There's nuances to this stuff. So this is what you're saying. I cut the top cover off so I could easily access it, but the grinder isn't for everyone. Yeah, I told you, Lady Print Boss, that she is a practitioner of this thing. I can't wait to do some sort of live or whatever. Just watching some of her videos and stuff, she's gonna get in there and get it done. Again, once you cross over into these dark waters of DTF, you have to really think critically to get out of certain situations. But it's not as uh, I don't know. It's not as sinister as it seems with the maintenance and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what this is. The P5000 here. Yeah, the digital hygrometer. Again, I don't have any links, or this isn't why I went live, but this is from DTG Pro. They sell these, and so it also you can connect it to an app if it's on the same network, and you can actually monitor your humidity, which is 38. We're close to what some would say is optimal for DTF, but 75 degrees, right on the money in the shop here. It may not stay the same way. We're in Dallas, Texas here, but yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, for a commercial desktop printer, I really love the P5000, but it's something where if I'm just be honest, I'm not going to put how to convert these on YouTube because I would be creating a problem for myself because I'd be answering countless questions from some of the issues that I've had. And I've already put the 7890 out there. People told me not to do that. So I'm glad I did it, but I also had people like blaming me for they didn't get a nozzle test and they said, hey, I did everything and it didn't work. So I don't want to repeat history. But I will be selling these at a fair price, really fair price, and you'll get that customer service from me. I'm helping a couple of people, it's like suppliers with their customer service and stuff. But I don't want someone to buy a printer from me and then I just abandon them, or they have to go to the forums to find out when I'm the one that sold them the thing. So I want to do things differently. I want to do things right. But we're not ready. Again, I'm waiting until everything is ironed out so that if you have a question, you reach out to me. Boom, this is how you do it. Set up a video call. It's done. You're back up and printing. Even the way I've designed, even helping DTG Pro, and they're helping me too, but helping them with the setup of the lines and stuff like that. It's all by design. I sat down here. I wish I had my notes, but I sat down here and looked at paired channels and to see how I would do this and to make it easier for the person that's going to use it. So I didn't realize, I think we're almost at like 2 hours at this. So yeah, I feel like I've gone live for long enough. Again, thank you guys for the donations. Like I didn't even know I can start earning money through the chat. I appreciate every striking thing that I get. If I've helped you in any way, if you've somehow benefited from this live, please give it a like if you can. I would really appreciate it. And so if anybody has any further questions, just let me know. Thank you for doing your best to answer our question. Thank you, Jace. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. And if you're watching this on the replay, feel free to put the questions in the comments so that if I choose to go live next week, I don't want to be redundant and talk about the same thing. So I don't want to waste your time. But if you could put some of those questions in the comments, I can answer them next week on Monday. And I like this space. Monday is usually the off day at the shop, but we have a baby on the way, so I'm working every day except for Saturday. It's a day of rest for me that I have to take. But aside of the Saturdays, I will be here. Aside from Saturdays, I will be here. So Monday seems pretty good because I'll already be here. Thank you, Carlos 420, for choosing to watch me. And oh, what? I didn't even see that. What code 4000 mean on the 7890? I don't know. I have a. If you join the pay, I think it's like $5. I can't. I think one's five, but I have the Epson service manual. So the field manual, and through my paid membership on YouTube, if you go and check that out, uh, you usually have to pay for this, but I've put it in there for free for you guys that choose to join the membership, the paid area of my YouTube channel. If you just hit join, and there's a Google Drive link, and it has all of these things in it. So you can actually go through in that service manual, and you can just search the code, search for the codes, and it'll tell you. And to be honest with you, you may be able to Google it. Just 7890 error code 4000. You said. But I wouldn't know. Honestly, I wouldn't know. If I knew, I would tell you off the top of my head. But I don't. Unfortunately, I don't. I don't know off the top of my head here. So if anyone else has any further questions, please be quick about it here. I don't want to take up everyone's time, but I'm going to close this out here in a second if I don't see any more comments pop up. And again, if you're watching the replay, just put it in the comments and hopefully I can get it answered the next time we're here. So thank you for tuning in for as long as you have. I appreciate all of the love and support. I will have new videos being posted again. I'm about 7 videos behind, probably more than that. But everything's recorded. Some of it's a little dated, so you might see me wearing a jacket, a couple of them. But I believe that's Yvette Gonzalez. Hi, thanks for your help. I'm having trouble with prints. They get humid after cook, sometimes more, sometimes less, but always. So I would watch the replay on this. We kind of addressed a little bit about if you're talking about oil, like it has an oily discharge on it when you press it. I spoke about wiping performing the first press and then wiping it down, the print, actually wiping the shirt down with the cloth and then repressing, and this should be fine. If you're talking about storing the prints, if you're going to store them, again, I would say to put them in a Ziploc bag with some silica packs. These little beads, they absorb moisture. They're the same packs that they put, if you've bought, I know you probably bought a lot of pair of shoes, I'm just saying. So the little beads that come in the packs of shoes and stuff that collect the moisture, those are what you're going to want to put into those Ziploc bags to help preserve those prints, and it should absorb any sort of moisture that collects in there. But if you want to try to prevent that, it depends on your humidity. So you're going to need a digital hygrometer. Again, I don't have a link in the affiliate. I am an affiliate for DTG Pro, but I don't care. You know, just go to DTG Pro and type it in, and that's going to tell you the temperature of the room, and this is going to tell you the humidity. And you don't want to go by the Weather Channel because they may be in a different area. You want one inside your shop, closest to the printing area, and that's going to tell you exactly what your humidity is. The ideal humidity, again, it's going to be arguably what people say between 40 and 45% within your printing environment. If it's lower than that, you'll want to powder. You can wait a little bit, but you want to see the ink have a dull appearance. You don't want the ink to be shiny, the white over base once you print. If your humidity is 50 and higher than that, you still want to just monitor the print and make sure it doesn't look wet or it doesn't have a gloss to it before you powder, because what's happening from what I've experienced is it seems as though when the ink is wet, you go to cure it, it's like you're smothering that wet ink with the powder, you're suffocating it, and then once you go to cure it, it's so much heat that it locks. So it cures it well, but it locks that moisture there, and then that's when you see that oily discharge from the print. So you want to make sure the ink is dry, but you can, even if it's really high humidity, you may be able to. I know people that print and then they wait a day before they powder it because the humidity is so high. So you're very welcome. If I have any information, you guys have it. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I've been using my hands a lot, and I need to work on that. Just sit still. So I feel like I've spoken for long enough. I thank you for every person that's chosen to stick around with me and be a part of this journey. As we grow together, look out for new videos coming soon. We'll be testing some products and stuff like that, things of that nature. Once I'm ready with my DTF brand and my consumables and all that, once we're ready to launch, I'll create a separate channel. I could self-promote, but I want to keep this channel primarily for testing products and what it started. I didn't really start this so I can one day sell you guys something. That wasn't the intent. It just kind of morphed into that by people asking me if I have printers and stuff like that. And if you go back in my earlier videos, I didn't have any interest in selling products, but we were too busy. I had enough on my plate. But with the baby on the way, and I have some knowledge and we're growing, yeah, why not provide quality products? Because there are people out here that are trying to take advantage of the community. I won't even mention them by name. But what's most important is that we shine and we overshadow the fraud and stuff that goes on DTF and provide people with quality information, quality consumables, and quality printers. And with that said, thanks again for watching. And as always, stay elegant, Print Society. Make it look cool. Spin the chair.